So as many of you know, we are continuing a summer sermon series on the Beatitudes, and we're looking at it line by line, beatitude by beatitude. And the text today is from the Gospel according to Matthew chapter 5, verse 6. If you would like to read that one line along with me, I encourage you to do so. It is found on page 4 of the New Testament section of your Red Pew Bible. Matthew 5, 6. Jesus' words to his disciples and all of those who were gathering around him. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. God, give us ears to hear and eyes to see and hearts that are open to receive and respond to your word, your message to us this day. Amen. Well, as you all know, those who are here and I'm sure those watching online, this past week the state of Vermont received historic rainfall and experienced catastrophic flooding. As soon as I say those words, I'm sure images come to your mind of places that you live or you have driven past, or images you have seen on social media of our state capital completely underwater. Other places throughout Vermont, like Barrie and Berlin and Rutland and Ludlow, ski resorts and businesses completely flooded. Devastation. Our community, our states, and areas in our region have been impacted. Thousands of lives and businesses, homes and properties are destroyed. The destruction is widespread, and the relief efforts are ongoing and will be for weeks and months and possibly years ahead. As many of you know, our neighbors in Morrisville, some of you are from Morrisville, have had a water ban on all water, including washing and drinking, since the flood started on Monday. And only just yesterday were able to use boiled water for some things. Many received this notice from the Morrisville Water and Light Department, I believe, on Tuesday. In capitals, do not drink the water from our system. While testing is underway, we simply cannot yet guarantee that it is safe to drink. And so for some in our communities, water has become an issue, has become scarce, has become something to strive for, to drive, to get, to need assistance and help to have in their homes, for those people that have homes to go back to. My colleague, Reverend Becca Gorell, pastors the United Community Church on Main Street in Morrisville. And since Monday, her church became a central hub for water distribution a couple days before FEMA arrived on the scene. And I was able to witness both the kindness of community members and local businesses going out of their way to bottle and distribute thousands upon thousands of gallons of water to this church. And I also witnessed the desperation of individuals who were thirsty and who were in dire need of water, showing up hour after hour to take as many gallons as they could either walk back home or drive back home or push in their shopping carts back to their houses or their businesses. Just yesterday, Brad Osborne and I, along with two of our youth from our church, visited the town of Johnson and saw firsthand what really was eye-opening to me: complete destruction along Main Street. Walking down Railroad Street and, quarter-mile section of Main Street, businesses, homes, and the church having to be completely gutted. Nothing survived the floods. And the desperation of people who don't know where to turn, what to do. Furniture, insulation, food, everything from all of the houses and from the church, the community church. Everything has to go. And they're just beginning that process now of where to even bring it, How do we get help to get it all out? What about the water that's still there? And then what will we ever do to rebuild these buildings and our lives and our livelihood? But again, many volunteers were on hand. There were FEMA representatives there. We met with the leaders, a few faith leaders, and the pastor of that church. World Central Kitchen was on site to provide meals for those who were hungry and those who were thirsty. And there were many who were hungry and thirsty. In today's Beatitude, Jesus says, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness." What does that mean? What is Jesus saying, and what does that mean for us today and in light of what we are experiencing as a state? Jesus is saying with the same determination and commitment as someone who is physically thirsty or hungry, and his audience knew that. He was speaking to an audience that knew what it was like to be hungry and to be thirsty. His audience knew what it was like to have water scarcity, because that's just the case in Israel. And it's still the case, though they're working on some amazing things with technology now, but that's been the case for the history of that land. Water is scarce, water is precious, but water is life. So to that audience, Jesus is saying, with the same determination and commitment as someone who is thirsty and someone who is hungry, we, as followers of Jesus, should strive after righteousness. But of course, what is righteousness? Because I think this term is often misunderstood with being self-righteous. I don't know about you, but I know some people who might be self-righteous. And I don't think that's what Jesus is talking about. It's not being self-righteous. This is the biblical definition of righteousness. One theologian equated righteousness to a diamond with many facets, which first of all is beautiful. That's what I want you to know. But it's also not complex, but it's multifaceted. There are different dimensions to this word and to its meaning and to its implication and application in our lives. Now, throughout the Bible, righteousness, especially through the prophets, has been described as the mighty acts of God in history to save and to deliver God's people. God's righteousness. It can be simply defined as God's saving acts. And when translated into Greek, the Greek word righteousness is basically the same as justice. The root words are the same. Justice. In the Bible, the righteous person is the one who responds to God's faithfulness and responds to God's saving acts by acting justly, showing mercy and compassion to the outcast, the oppressed, the weak, the disenfranchised, the displaced, the orphan, and the widow. In one line from this fabulous story, the book of Job, we read these words, "I put on righteousness, and it clothed me. My justice was like a robe. I was eyes to the blind and feet to the lame. I was a father to the needy, and I championed the cause of the stranger." One of my favorite and most respected theologians, Father Richard Rohr, writes these words, "To live a just life in this world is to have identified with the longings and the hungers of the poor and the meek and those who weep." Sometimes we are among those, but many times we are not. But we're called to identify with those who are in dire straits. And as we identify with them and find solidarity and find ways to supporting them, we are living a just life. We are living in righteousness. So this beatitude today is both spiritual and social. As such is our faith. The faith communities of Lamoille County over this past week, including our very own, have stepped up to provide aid and assistance. It has really shown to me the definition of Vermont strong. I'm relatively new, and seeing Vermont come together in amazing ways of solidarity and compassion and care makes me so proud to be part of this state and this community. Now most of us, because I've spoken with many of you online and here, we have been fortunate. The town of Stowe was spared from severe destruction or loss of property. Some have had minor flooding in basements, but we have had electricity, drinkable water, passable roads. We are able to meet today for worship. There are churches in Vermont that cannot and will not be able to meet in their churches for a long time. And I think of the community church in Johnson. My friend Amy Pitton is the pastor of Bethany Church in Montpelier. There is no church for them to worship in. So we have been fortunate, we have been spared, we have been blessed, and this is a good thing. We should thank God for that. But others did not fare so well, and we know that. But they are our neighbors. They are part of our family. And our calling is to stand with them and to stand for them during times of need, and to show our faith by what we do. One of Jesus' companions and early Christian leaders was a man named James, and he wrote a really small but powerful letter or epistle. I'm going to read his words as he was reflecting on the Beatitudes and on all that he experienced, all that he learned from Jesus, this stranger of Galilee. He says, "What good is it, my sisters and brothers, if someone claims to have faith but does not have works? Surely that faith cannot save, can it? If a brother or sister is naked and lacks daily food, and one of you says to them, 'Go in peace, keep warm and eat your fill,' and yet you do not supply their bodily needs, what good is that? So faith by itself, if it has no works, is dead. But someone will say, 'Well, you have faith and I have works. Show me your faith apart from works, and I, by my works, will show you my faith.'" Jesus said, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness." By acts of kindness and compassion and generosity, we demonstrate the saving acts of God. We are the deliverance of God, God's heart and God's hands and God's feet. It is our action towards others and how we respond to those in need that make visible the saving love of Jesus. And I think in these days we need this reminder. When our imagination may be limited, when our hope for the future may be dimmed, when people wonder, what is the church? Where is the church? When we think that what we do and what we say and what we believe does not matter, these Beatitudes are a reminder that it does. These Beatitudes are not just blessings, but they are a call to action. The Beatitudes are a call to action for the sake of creating the world that God imagines. A world that is fair and just and equitable. A world where people who have excess give to those who have less. A world where people deeply care not just for their own interests, but like Jesus, looks after the interests of others, even willing to sacrifice of what they have so that others may live, and even others may live well. A world filled with God's love. Well, friends, we are part of that. We are part of that calling to create the world that God imagines. we will always be part of that redemptive work here at Stowe Community Church. And I'm so honored and proud to be a pastor here and to have such compassionate hearts. So many people reaching out this week saying, what can we do? How can we help? And I want you to know, as a congregation, you are very blessed to have an extremely dedicated, dynamic missions and service committee who is working really hard on our behalf to assess these needs and what we can do to be a light, to be a hope and a force for good in our community. And so with that, I would like to welcome one of the members of this committee, Karen Monson, to come forward and to share our missions moments on this Sunday. Karen, thank you and welcome.
Morning. The United Way of Lamoille County has organized a group of over 50 members representing the communities hit hardest by the flooding. This task group met on Friday via Zoom, and Stowe Community Church was well represented. The major highlights were the communities are getting overwhelmed with donations, and in some cases, they have nowhere to store them. Money will always continue to be the most valuable resource long-term for these organizations to help their communities. A few in Lamoille County include Jenna's Promise, Capstone Community Action, United Way of Lamoille County, Stowe Community Fund, which is primarily for just Stowe. Stowe Community Church has been working in joining the United Way calls, and the Missions Committee is working on steps as the situation evolves. To date, we have posted organizations in need on the website and in the Quest. Individuals have volunteered in Johnson, Morrisville, and other areas and made water donations. To that effect, Brad Osborne will have a volunteer sign-up sheet in the narthex for anyone available to help tomorrow. We are also taking a special donation today that will go directly to both the United Way of Lamoille County and Capstone Community. Both organizations are on the front lines helping the communities directly. Please give generously if you can, checks, cash, or Venmo. You can use the envelopes provided today in the bulletin and mark flood relief on them. Also, any online donations, Venmo or PayPal, should be noted that the donation is for flood relief. To tell you a little bit about each of the organizations that will receive the funds, the United Way of Lamoille County is spearheading flood relief efforts for Lamoille County. They have highlighted that no clothing, furniture, etc., donations now. They don't have the capacity to store. There will come a time, location, and future. Now they need water, volunteers, and money. You can visit their website for updates. The Capstone Community Action, they are taking a critical role in supporting the individuals impacted by the flood, serving meals, offering water, supplies, shelter information, food access and support. Their need is money as well. They are supporting both Lamoille and Washington counties. They also have a website if you need more information. If you would also like to find more specific opportunities to volunteer, you can read the Front Porch Forum, find local GoFundMe initiatives on the GoFundMe homepage, and like the Vermont Flooding 2023 Response and Recovery Mutual Aid page on Facebook. They are all up to date on individual needs in the community. Together, and with the help of God, we will remain Vermont strong. Thank you.
Karen and the Missions and Service Committee, thank you so much for all of your work this past week and for providing these opportunities to us. Before we take